All right, I guess we're live. Been wanting to do this for a long time. Stream with you guys. I'm just here at the tying desk, so I might as well just share it with you guys and, tie up. I'm working on flies for the box that'll go out in the shop. They're for sale there. This isn't any particular order. I've got some thread Frenchies stacked up here that I want to work on. And then maybe if there's any requests in the chat, I might decide what to tie next. I'm going to do 6 size 16s and 6 18s and then go from there. It's snowing today here in NorCal. It's kind of cold in here. That's why I'm all bundled up. But yeah, let's get to tying. And if you have any questions in the chat, I'll try to answer them as I go. Like I said, this is pretty low key, nothing super crazy. So I'll turn on the Vice Cam. Hey, Rosin, how's it going, buddy? See here, like I said, there might be some technical challenges. I don't know if I've got this set up all right. This is the first time. Oh, there we go. There's the camera with picture-in-picture. It's supposed to be my chat showing up in OBS, and I don't see it there, so I may just keep the tab open on YouTube. Let's see, no audio? That's awkward. Let's see what we got here. I'm showing levels in OBS. When I was testing it myself earlier, I was getting audio. I see what you're saying. You've got your phone muted. So I'll just get to tying. Thanks for joining, Rosin. And put on the old sexy reading glasses because I can tie without them, but I just like to have them for a little bit of extra magnification. And for this, I'm using, I just sort of mixed up the colors here. This is pale olive and 8/0. I'm just going to lay a thread base here. And this is a pretty simple fly. I actually like both the thread version and the traditional pheasant tail bodied version. One of these days I'll add the regular traditional Frenchie to the shop. I've just been so busy with selling beads. It's been awesome. Just adding in about 6 or 7 strands of CDO, dark Pardo. Tie that in all the way in behind the bead. And then I'm using March Brown wire in 0.2 millimeter, which is about the same as Brassy and UTC. And I'm just going to tie this in behind the hook. Go all the way to the tail and then back forward, making sure I don't have any gaps because I want, this is the color of the body. And we just make wire wraps back up to the bead. Thanks for checking, Rosin, about the audio. I realize now that thanking you is kind of pointless since you have your audio turned off. But put a thin coat of bone dry on here. Let that kind of flow around. It's a little cold in here, so it's a little thick. Might need to go heat it up to sort of loosen up or thin it out. So you're basically just putting a little sheen on there, filling in the gaps between the wire a little bit. Should still be able to see the ribbing. And then we're using some pink ice dubbing for a thin collar, and you just need to grab a little bit. Once it's noodled up, you just need about an inch on there. Is the quality good or bad, Caleb? I don't know what that emoji means in that context. Probably too much noodle. It took me a while to figure out how to roll these on without them kind of bunching up and looking weird. And I've learned like a really subtle figure 8 pattern. So you kind of cross back and forth over itself. And it kind of builds up more nicely. Ah, thanks, Caleb. A little bit of a whip finish. And of course it's a little sloppy, just cut these wild ones off. Little dab of Loon water-based head cement. I've tried several recently and I've come back to that. I started with it. Now I've come back to it because I just like the way it sinks in, and I also like that it doesn't stink. I'm kind of sensitive to fumey head cements. Like I said, I'm just going to go through and do a dozen of these. And then after that, I don't know, try something else. What am I doing here? Tail next. Thanks, Kyle. Glad you like them. I basically got those hooks for myself. I was a little worried that people would be kind of, I don't know, picky is the wrong word. They're just kind of loyal to a certain brand of hooks. They like their hook, and I didn't think that my hooks would really be that big of a draw. I mainly got them for my own tying needs and just put them up there, and they've been selling well, and people have been reporting back that they like them, so that's good to hear. I was thinking, Rosin, about the background that I need to sort of spruce up the other areas that don't have anything on them because it looks kind of ugly. I either need to paint it or put something over it to make it look pretty. Or more cork or more pegboard. Can never have enough pegboard. Even though I'm only using half of this sheet. I don't know if you can kind of check this out. It's like, I don't know, the light's kind of in the way, but the top half isn't really used because I have to stand up to reach up there. I may actually put some down here. It's more level with where I need to be. Let's see, did I just completely bonk my camera position? No, that looks decent. Well, I don't know. Hey, Rosin, do you know, I guess you still can't hear me, but do you know how to get the chat to show up in OBS? Asking for a friend. All of you guys on the West Coast, you're getting some weather. I was reading that it's supposed to even snow down in Southern California today, which is kind of unusual. We're getting some light snow flurries today. It's definitely cold. It's not going to get much above freezing here. Actually forgot. I was reading this tip that Tim Flagler sharpens the butt of his whip finish tool so that he can just quickly cut it. I don't know if I have it as sharp as possible. I might hit it with my actually whetstone that I use for my kitchen knives, but it saves a little bit if you're tying a lot. It saves a step having to get an extra tool out. These little dubbed collars are kind of messy today. Don't judge me. Fair enough. I've got some shortcuts linked to the different camera angles, so I don't have to actually have OBS open to switch cameras. I just got to remember what shortcut leads to what camera profile or scene. Yo, Bob's in the chat. Talking about doing this forever, and we're finally doing it. Let's see. Some wire off this spool, it's like tangled. Deal with that later. Yo, and Matt's in the chat. Nice. Like I said, I'm just keeping this low key and casual. Hopefully my flies don't suck because I'm on the internet. Everyone's watching me. Case in point, the tail on this one is a little long. These flies are just going in the shop for when somebody orders them. I've been so backed up, usually when somebody orders flies, I will make them to order basically, which is not ideal. I'd like to have my bins full of flies so that I can just pack them and go. I don't have to stress about it. But it does take some discipline to get some tying done in your free time. I'm going to trim this tail back. Don't tell anybody. Normally, I would like to be editing a video right now, but on Monday, I think, or one day this week, I went to the upper sack, fished a new section, and skunked. Didn't even get a single bite. And then the next day, I went out with Matt, who's in the fly tying, or who's in the chat today. Shout out, Matt. We tried to get some steelhead up on the Klamath, and I skunked there again, so I have no videos to work on. So, good excuse to get in here and tie. It's kind of stormy weather today anyway, so it's a good excuse to hang out with you guys. See if you guys like this and just chilling, talking. Hey Thomas, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Oh, I know, but it's one thing about tying commercially is it's just really important to have all the flies be unique, or be the not unique, consistent fly to fly. So if someone buys a dozen, then they're all going to be the same. If one pokes out, it's just not very professional. If one's slightly different, as I'm sure you can relate to, your flies are also beautiful. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jason. Fortunately, I need to get my bins tied up, so I'm just tying patterns that are in the shop. That'd be a fun idea for a live stream, though, is just kind of on the fly tying stuff, even though I may not know the pattern. Kind of like calling shots, seeing if you can do it. I'm actually just really good at the flies I tie all the time. I don't have a lot of variety that I'm good at. I'm sure I can figure out a hair's ear, but I don't tie them that often. It's been a long time since last time I tied one. I would need to at least look at a picture. Yeah, you should totally edit that up, Kyle. I remember you talking about it in the Discord about filming one, but getting up the time to actually get it out there and edit it. I forget, where did you go fishing? Well, Bob, at least you've got a video to edit. I have nothing in the reserves, and all the skunks I've been having this winter have made my backlogs empty out completely. Well, Kyle, whenever the fish are cooperating and you get it on camera, that makes editing the video pretty easy. It's the days that are slow that are hard to edit. And like I said, I've kind of developed a policy. If I don't catch any fish on a day, I just scrap the video. I don't even try to make something out of it. Believe me, Kyle, I can relate to that. I can relate. I think of my last 6 trips out, I've skunked 4 of them. Yeah, it's been a rough winter for me. A lot of it's been fishing and trying to learn a new river. Since I've moved, I've been fishing on the Klamath more. And I think the conclusion I've made is that I need to get a 2-handed rod to fish that well. it's just such a big river. It's really hard to get the flies out there. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room to back cast because there's a lot of brush or steep banks, and I don't know, just sometimes you're just not in the right spot, or they're on the other side of the inside of a bend, as it was the case this time with Matt. The fish were on the opposite side where the river was sort of curving away from us, and we needed to be on the inside of the curve. And he was able to grab his wife's spinning rod, cast one over there with a spinner, and he actually hooked up to the only fish of the day. The only bite, well, he had some bites, but no hookups. But I didn't even have any bumps or anything. I did take out the new salt rod because I wanted to cast it, even though it's kind of not really designed for that kind of fishing. But it was fun to cast it around and feel it in the water. I was trying to swing some streamers. Had a really ugly double haul. It's one thing to do it in your front yard when there's no wind or trees or no current moving your line around, but when you're out on the river, that kind of exposes a lot of your flaws. So I have some work to do there. Yeah, Bob, I'm just going to tie. When I get tired, I'll turn it off. Thinking maybe 2 hours. We'll see. Sure, you guys would like to see a different pattern here eventually. My bins are completely empty, so I'm not sure what I'll go to next. I'm thinking ShopVacs. Playing with the levels on the mic, can you guys all hear what I'm saying pretty well? The mic's a little further away than I think I would like, but I've got the gain kind of turned up, hoping that you can hear me well. Thanks, guys. The big advantage of having my office set up in the shop is it's quiet. I don't have kids banging doors or slamming drawers or stomping through the house like they do. No offense, Caleb. Just living makes noise, so it's nice that it's quiet, but it is quite chilly out here. I've had a fire raging all morning, and it's just now kind of warming up. What is our temp out here? We got just under 60 degrees. Which isn't bad. I could probably take this coat off or unzip it at least. Yeah, I thought about it after the fact when I was casting my 9-weight that I probably could have just put a regular leader on it and tried casting it. Because that thing roll casts pretty nice. It's got a heavy, it's a tropical line, so it's kind of stiff for fishing in cold weather, let alone room temperature. But I thought about it after the fact. Probably should have experimented, but it's a big river. I mean, the Klamath is like 150 feet wide in spots. And I was really only able to fish like a quarter of it. But that's a good idea on a size and weight, Jason. For a rod, I would like a nice medium weight rod that would, handle larger fish better. I was fishing my 10-foot 5 weight, and it's kind of a soft action 5-weight. I don't know what it is with Frenchies lately. They've always been a confidence fly for me, but in the last 3 months, I mean, this winter aside, since I've moved, Frenchies have just been my go-to. Like, I've just caught so many fish on this fly. It's ridiculous. Oops, I think I forgot to put head cement on that one. Probably unnecessary, but since they're going out to people that aren't me, I like the extra bit of security. Okay, now we're stepping down in size to the 18s. I doubt you guys can hear that, but one of the walls of my shop is basically the side of my horse's pen. And she's normally pretty pushy about getting her meals. She's kind of, when we got her, she was overweight. And so she's on a pretty strict diet. We weigh her food morning and evening. And it goes in a slow feeder bag. Anyway, for whatever reason, I fed her normal time, like 7 a.m. And she's like begging for food at as early as like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm like, what the heck? Normally she's not doing that till 2 in the afternoon. And she gets really pushy. She'll stick her head at the window. Yeah, you guys can't see it, but her head's in the window and she was just whinnying at me like, come on, I know you're in there. Come in and feed me. But dinner time is like 4 hours away, so she's just going to have to suck it up and be tough. She's super pushy. She's kind of gotten to the point where she started kicking the wall, which is super naughty. There's a couple dings on the side of the wall, which is annoying. Alright guys, well, you've convinced me. It'd be easier for me to get an indicator line like that for my 5-weight and just give it a shot before I get another rod. I mean, the Klamath is so close to me. It's a shame that I can't fish it effectively yet. My brother was sharing with me, Adipose had a custom boat that the customer backed out on last minute, so they listed on Instagram for sale, and I think the price was 17,000. And he was saying I should get it, and obviously I can't afford that, right? But I just thought it was funny. He literally, like 30 minutes later, shared their follow-up post saying it was sold. So it didn't take long. I think they've got like an 8 or 9 month wait list, so I'm not surprised them listing that for sale and it going so quick. But I guess everybody wants one or something. That's why they cost so much. It seems like they should maybe hire some more people that can build them. 8 months is kind of a lot to ask your customers, in my opinion. I can turn the camera around, but she'll be far away. See that window way over there? I don't know. You can see that. Let me do this. Nah, it's all blown out, but she's in that window way over there. It's kind of creepy, to be honest, but yeah, we can trailer up to the country. I mean, my wife's talked about it. It's her horse. She would love to do more backcountry stuff and use it to sort of carry the weight, get you up there. I'm not the avid horse person. The few times I've gotten on a horse, I've come right off and landed on the ground, and that's not a very fun feeling. Bead is not fitting on the hook, and it looks like a different hook or a different bead to me. Two 2mm beads are pretty small. That one might be like 1.5. I don't know. Something wrong with it. Hey Brandon, welcome to the stream. It's my very first time streaming one of these. Seems like a no-brainer. I'm here at the Vice a lot, so I might as well hang out with you guys. Show you what I'm up to. Not likely to get a horse cam, Caleb. Sorry, man. Are you a horse person, Kyle? Hey Brandon, are you getting some good weather down there in the park? That's good to hear, Brandon, about the snow in the park. Makes me happy hearing about snow everywhere in the state, to be honest. So obviously we need it. There's a section where Interstate 5 drives over the Shasta Lake. And for the last couple of years, the lake has not been a lake, it's been the Sacramento River. And I actually tried fishing there once, and it's just like a sand pit. We didn't find any fish there. I don't think they actually will hang out there in the sand. It was all disgusting. But anyway, I bring that up to say that the weather has brought enough rain to fill that back up, so it's actually a lake under that section. So if you're ever driving north through that area, through around Lakehead, you'll notice that there's a lake there, not a river, as it should be. Oh, good call. There was, I think, a couple guys in the Discord said they were going to go. I've never actually been to one of those shows. I would love to go. I wasn't even aware it was going on, to be honest. Shows you how clued in I am. Ooh, way too much collar on this one. Just got to back it out and do it again. Is there anybody interesting supposed to be there doing any talks or fly tying demos or whatnot? I haven't even looked up what's going on. Whoops. Over there at the show. Now the fall's a great time to fish the upper sack. Summer's a challenge. Well, winter and summer are pretty challenging times to fish it because in the summer the water does raise. The temp comes up quite a bit, and so you gotta really look for them in the fast, pocket water or the really fast agitated water. And usually earlier in the morning, like once the sun hits noon, it's kind of too hot to fish, and the bite comes off. Even if the water temps are still fishable, but in the fall and the spring, that's money on there. Just talking about the upper sack. Just when I feel like I've got it figured out, it'll throw a twist at me, and I'll skunk or do poorly. I mean, just even week to week, I can do poorly one day, and then the next week I'll do well. So it's very sensitive, I think, to flows. It likes to have steady flows if they've come up or come down, or I also think if during runoff and a lot of cold water is coming into the system, that'll also put the fish down or turn off the bite or slow it down. And I also think the fish in that stream are a little more mobile and they move around a lot, so you got to find where they are. It's possible they might not be in a section that you happen to be fishing, but I may just be making excuses for being a terrible fly fisherman. That's highly possible. I was kind of hesitant to start streaming these because my internet connection's kind of shoddy or not shoddy. It's like when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's really bad. I've got, basically I'm using Verizon and I'm using Starlink together. They're bonded. And when we first moved here, there was nothing available at all. Like no DSL, no cable, basically no wired internet connections. A lot of people use some of the local like WISP style wireless internet service providers is what that stands for. And I've had one in the past that's up here, and it was just a terrible experience. So I've kind of bootlegged a Verizon modem, and I've got some Yagi style antennas that point towards the tower, but like the tower that covers where I live is up on a mountain, and it basically is covering the whole valley. So I think there's just a lot of users on it, and the bandwidth there, especially in the evening when everyone's on and trying to stream Netflix or whatever, it goes to doo-doo. So we also got Starlink, which is great most of the time, except in the evening it's basically unusable also. So with the two bonded together, you can kind of stream some shows. I'm guessing uploading a live stream like this probably wouldn't work in the evening time, which is kind of a bummer because that's when people are off work or maybe they just want to chill and hang out, and I won't be able to do it probably in the evenings. But I could experiment with turning the quality down in the evening, like change the bit rate so it's not as bandwidth intensive. That was sick. Tim Flagler, Al Ridd, and Ed Engel, Gary Barker. Wow. Quite a lineup. That'll be fun. Jealous. All right. Got two more after this one, and then we can move on to a different pattern. That's cool to know, Thomas. Do you like fishing big or small flies, or does it matter? Speaking of tires at tying shows, I was talking to Bob from Trout Flies. If you're in the Utah area, he said he's going to have a booth at the local tying show up there in Utah. I'm not sure exactly where it is. Maybe if he's still there, he can let everyone know where. If you're going to be in the Utah area, I'm guessing it's in the Provo, maybe Salt Lake area, somewhere in that vicinity. He said he was going to do some live tying and give them away to the kids, so if you want to dress up like a kid, maybe you can get some free flies from him. Just kidding. You should buy his flies. His flies are awesome. cold coffee. Yeah, man, if you can get the time off to fish everything up here, I highly recommend, obviously. I'm biased. I mean, they're my home rivers, but I don't know. I think they're kind of underrated. Everyone likes to talk about the Sierra Nevada and all the rivers over there on the east side, but I don't know. I don't have to contend with other anglers. Usually I have the whole river to myself. If I see somebody, I just either go to another parking spot or, you know, just walk a half mile up and I'll never see another human again. So, I mean, there's so many miles of rivers. It's just so easy to spread out. So it's, and you know, because there's so much room to spread out, if you're willing to get away from the parking areas a little bit, I mean, the fish are not going to have seen much pressure. And in general, that's cold, clean water in all those systems. So they're all pretty healthy. Good to know, Tom. Do you fish small stuff even in the summertime, or is that just a winter thing? Big shout out to everyone who's just lurking and watching, hanging out. Glad to have you. If you haven't yet, consider liking the video. Promote this to more people. It helps me, helps the channel. It makes me more able to continue making videos like this. So I appreciate all of you. That noodle is still too big. It's size 18, so it's gonna build up quickly. Talking about some future plans. I know some of you in the Discord know about this because I've been talking about it there, but I just picked up a saltwater rod. It's an outfit from Colton Fly Fishing, based out of Pennsylvania. He sells freshwater gear, but his specialty is saltwater. I got some advice to check out his hardware for his reel, mainly because his reel had the best drag in the industry. And reached out to them, worked out a deal, and they didn't give me a deal on an outfit, and got his Tailwind XS rod and a 9-weight 9-foot, and got his Terrapin reel. And since I only got one rod, a 9-weight, he also recommended I have an 11-weight, especially if I was going to fish some blue water. And I got an oversized reel that can handle up to a 12-weight line. So it's a big beast. It's like a 4-inch arbor on this thing. But I'm planning to go down to the Sea of Cortez in Mexico in a couple, 3 weeks or so, somewhere around there. First time fishing salt, so I'm super pumped about that. But stay tuned for that. Look for that probably at the end of the next month. I think I'm going to do some thread Frenchies. Excuse me, I just did those. I'm going to do some ShopVacs because I'm also completely out of those. I'm going to do those also in a size 18. I tie those on a Firehole 520 hook. That one right there. Tie up 6 of those. And let me check my notes. I do not remember what size bead those take. 2.5 matte black. And I'll need some pheasant tail. Ooh la la. And then I'm going to need, I use predator fibers from Simperfly, but this is basically like EP fiber or, what's the other stuff people like to use? I don't know, parapost wing. It's basically the same kind of thing. It's like a crinkly monofilament fiber. I've already got a piece pulled off of a bundle of that. And then for that, I use base thread. Boom. This is a pretty simple pattern. I like to fish this small, even fish this in a 20, because the 520 hooks are kind of on the big side compared to other more traditional size hooks. But this one, you just make a thread body all the way down about 3/4 of the way. I mean, you could do open loops. It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, and then for this I use copper wire and 0.2 millimeter, which is also about brassy size in UTC. And I will tie this on to the whole shank of the hook. I want it mainly so that the body of the fly is even. It doesn't, get skinny close behind the bead. And then I'll pull off this particular feather. The fibers are a little short, so I like to do about 4 or 5 strands of pheasant tail. And I'll tie it in at the tips. 2 loose wraps, pull it to length, and wrap back down to where you want the body or the tail to start, I guess. And then loose wraps back up behind the bead. Use the rotary function to do tight, or excuse me, whoops. Use the rotary function to do tight touching wraps. And the coast is clear when you get around that point of the hook. Hey Dave, what's up, man? And I've been reading the book in the evenings. It's been really entertaining so far, so thank you. And it is really cool to hear the perspectives from from Steinbeck back in the day before, well, modern times or, you know, whatever, you know what I mean. But it's cool seeing it through his eyes. So thank you again for purchasing that book and sending it to me. And back to the fly, I'm cross-wrapping the wire wraps up. And tie in the wing material with a little bit, do 2 wraps, and then I pull it back and then build up a thread collar so that the wing kind of shoots back. And this takes some practice of figuring out the right angle to cut this at, but I like to kind of cut it off perpendicular. And maybe shorter the better, so it just puffs up like that. But this fly, low key, this one's like a secret killer. I don't know, just when I'm having a tough time, I'll put this fly on and it'll get some stuff done for me. It's a fun one. And it's a classic old pattern. Like I said, I think it looks really good on this hook. It was one of my earliest confidence flies when I got into fly fishing. I got like this random pack of flies. I think the company was still out there on Amazon, called Venture Fly Company. It was like $75 and you can get a box of dries and a box of nymphs, and one of the compartments had some ShopVacs in it. And I don't know why, but those flies just worked back in the day and they still work today, so I love it. Brandon, if you're on the Klamath and you fish from a boat, I bet your 6-weight would be fine. I mean, heck, even from the bank, I think if you got a good, you know, nymphing line like we've been talking about, where you can roll cast that thing out there, and if you're a good mender, I'm sure you could do fine. I'm going to get some more fibers. Those were 2 in the middle of it were broken. Sorry about the post office, Bob. Like, sketch like a lot of weirdos down there. Or just a lot of people. The eye of this fly is twisted. That's weird, never seen that before. Go through enough flies and enough boxes from any brand, you're going to find defects or a different style hook altogether. It happens. Dang, that's a lot of snow. That's crazy. Such a short amount of time, too. Wah, wah, wah. That one broke off. I don't know. I think I put enough. That one had 5 or 6 strands. I think I'm good. I'm just going to overwrap it with the wire, and that'll hold them all in there. That's awesome, Dave. Sorry, It's always a good storm when it drops some snow down at sea level down there. I'd like to get out and fish tomorrow, but I think the storm is going to surge up again tomorrow, so I don't know. That may be a bad idea to get out in the middle of the storm. As long as I can get to the water, I'm trying to want to go somewhere different, maybe the McLeod or the pit, but I have to go through a bit of a pass to get to both of those. Oh, come on, 300 feet, that's basically sea level. I was at 300 feet in Ventura where I grew up. See, that would be the prudent thing to do, is, you know, go on a day when the weather's good, but snowy weather and in a fishing video, that's like super beautiful footage. So always thinking about the video as well. Although it does make it challenging. The batteries don't like to be cold. I've gotten into the habit of putting a hot hands hand warmer in the bag with them, and that seems to help a lot. The GoPro that I was using for my underwater release shots, it was an older generation, and I think maybe the batteries are just old and worn out, but I mean, if it's below 40 degrees, those batteries basically don't hold a charge anymore, which was super frustrating. At my home, I'm just under 4,000 feet, and yeah, so we're up there. I think the average elevation in the valley up north of Shasta is about 25 to 3,000. We're kind of up the hill a little bit. We've had a nice cold north wind this last couple days, and it's overcast, so it's definitely not going to warm up today. You're referring to for the batteries, Jason? It's definitely one disadvantage to wearing reading glasses while tying. It's kind of hard to look over and see the chat because they basically only work, you know, 2 feet away. That's a good idea. The one thing I was finding is I keep my batteries in a waterproof pocket inside my fish pond, you know, waterproof sling bag, and those packs, obviously they need oxygen for the chemical reaction to work and generate heat. So I think when it's sealed in there with a waterproof zipper, that the oxygen's running out and they're not getting as hot as they normally would. So I might consider getting an electric hand warmer. That's a really good idea. So some more copper wire. But I will say the batteries for USB, or excuse me, the GoPro 9, 10, and 11 series of GoPros are way more durable to cold, or resistant to cold. They're still pretty sensitive to heat, I think. It'll shut down if it overheats. And you may have noticed I use like a foam little enclosure thing over the GoPro that protects it from wind. So the built-in wind canceling is still a joke, and it just sounds weird when it's working or doing its thing. And so what I've been doing with that in the summertime is I'll just dunk the GoPro in water, and that basically acts like a sponge holding water on it. It helps keep it cool. I don't know, challenges of the guy who's filming out on the river. Most people don't have to worry about that. May have cut off a little too much wire. It's all a lot of slack to get in the way, but I don't know, saves me time. Don't have to go back to the spool to get more all the time. But I just placed an order for some new fly tying materials. Since I'm going to Mexico, I gotta learn some new patterns here. So of course I've got some stuff for a clouser. Trying to think of all the patterns that I'm getting stuff for. I've got a bunch of new colors of predator fibers, which is, like I said earlier, it's basically EP fibers. So I'm gonna do some bait fish. I'm gonna do a spawning shrimp pattern. I was gonna do a flexo crab pattern. It looked really cool because you use this weird kind of like electrical shielding tubing stuff. It's like a mesh. You put it over the hook and it kind of blows up and looks kind of like a crab body. And the cool thing about that is since it's porous, water can go in and out of it, so it'll cast more subtly. But I decided not to get that. I'm not going anywhere where there's flats. It's going to be in the Sea of Cortez, so I will be doing mostly beach fishing. It's really hard to do research to find guides down there. I'm not going to like the traditional places along the end of Baja where there are a lot of places you can rent a panga or rent a guide at a panga, which is what you call the boats down there. And I think it's because of the wind. I'm going to be on the east side of the Sea of Cortez, kind of in an area called San Carlos. And I think there's a lot of wind there. Like the actual peninsula from Baja shields the opposite side of the Sea of Cortez, so those smaller boats can get around more easily. So to rent a boat there, it's a lot more, it's a bigger ship basically. It's a lot of like 18 to 30 passenger boats, and so they're trying to get you like a whole party of people together, and that, to be honest, doesn't really sound great. It may take a float tube because there's a bunch of sheltered coves. That might happen, might not, it depends. Still kind of playing this by ear, but what I'm kind of hoping is I can get down there and get some advice from a tackle shop or whomever. Maybe I can find a guide. Most of the guides where I'm going to be are all conventional guides, and whoops, what am I doing? Thinking about Mexico is what I'm doing. But I'd love to get a boat because that way I can get into some bluer water and target some bigger fish. It's going to be a little early for roosters, but they could be there. There could be some yellowfin tuna. Those are probably the two species, like the best sport fish species I could hope to find. But at this point, I don't really care if it's, you know, some, I don't know, there's a lot of species of jack. I think jack crevalle is a common species down there, or I think there's grouper, there's spotted bass, spotted sea bass. At this point, I don't care. And everyone's telling me that it's going to corrupt me, because supposedly it's a lot easier than fishing for trout. You just have a well-presented streamer, strip it back aggressively, and they'll eat it. And like, I was told that there's a good chance I'll have like a 200 fish day where all the fish are over 20 pounds. So we'll see. I'm basically going to be learning on video because I've never fished in the surf. Well, there's not really surf there, but I've never fished in the saltwater. But I'm excited to. Never been anywhere tropical. I grew up in Southern California, but that water's still cold enough. If you want to swim in it, you need a wetsuit. At least up where I was around Ventura. But I'm super pumped about that. And then when I get back, I think I'd like to try my hand at surf perch up here in California. Maybe go out and down into the Delta and look for stripers. You know, there's several people in the Discord that will go out in the Delta or even in the bay from like a paddleboard and target stripers on the fly, and that just sounds super fun. So I'll definitely have a great rod set up for that. I just need to get a line that's more suited for the colder weather up here, because it is a bit stiff. Well, I'm excited. I haven't the stream health indicator here on my dashboard has indicated that it's been strong this whole time, so that's cool. I mean, I talked earlier about my internet connections, and it is possible I can basically bond any number of connections together. And you know, I've actually seriously considered doing 3 or maybe 4, getting one of those local, you know, wireless internet providers and adding them into the mix. If I do more of these, if I do more of these live streams, I'll definitely consider it, because I have a feeling today is kind of unusual, or maybe I just need to stick to doing it in the morning / daytime when I have the best bandwidth. Because, like I said, in the evening from like 8 to 10, my speed test can be like 5 megabits per second max, where like right now it's probably 150 megs, which Starlink is amazing, but they just don't have enough satellites to handle peak usage in the evenings. My last house I had just Verizon, and I was in kind of a rural area that didn't have many people connecting to that tower, and I was like a couple miles away with direct line of sight from it, so I was getting really reliable speeds from that. I didn't need Starlink at that point. But one of the prices you pay for living out in the country. Check up on the chat here. How do I bond the connections together? I'm basically using a Raspberry Pi to make a custom router configuration using some software called Open Multi-Port TCP Router. It's basically a customized copy of OpenWRT. I don't know if this is all too nerdy for you guys, but basically I've got 2 wireless or WAN or internet connections going into the Raspberry Pi, which is basically just a small computer, and then they're connecting to a server on the internet through a VPN on each connection, and then that server combines both streams into one. And so basically I've got 2 VPNs connecting into one port of entry. So that's like my public facing IP address is on a cloud server somewhere in the Bay Area. And for the most part it works really great. Like when one connection really chokes or something, because sometimes Starlink does go down, like there might not be a good satellite overhead because the network is growing, the number of satellites up in the sky. If one goes down, it'll automatically just use the one that's working. But it's not perfect. I mean, wireless connections are subject to a lot of interference, or there's a lot of traffic on the networks. The amount of bandwidth available goes way down sometimes, which is frustrating. But it's cool tech. The other downside of it is a lot of the streaming services. I think Netflix doesn't care, but I think like HBO Max, maybe Amazon, I don't remember which ones anymore, because I don't watch a lot of TV, but they think you're on a VPN, which technically I am, but they won't stream to me, or some content isn't available in the library because they think I'm on a VPN, because they're trying to avoid from people from a different country using a VPN to get IP addresses to unlock different content that they're not supposed to have access to, I guess, but which is dumb because my IP's not like coming from a VPN service like ExpressVPN or whatever. It's just a server and a server farm. Okay, I got a half dozen of ShopVacs tied. What should we do next? I'm thinking, let's see here. I'm thinking, what sells the most? Let's do some blowtorches. Those are pretty popular. I'm often sold out of those. And those I only offer in one size 14. So let me get some of those hooks out. And that's awesome. There's 15 of you on watching right now, just hanging out. Another thing I might do, maybe, not sure yet, but I might share, just sort of do a hangout type deal with video while I'm editing the video. I'm not sure yet. I might limit that to some memberships, which I'm about to roll out in maybe a week or two, for you guys that want some more exclusive behind the scenes content. I may make streams like this available to the memberships. I don't know. Just people that are super nerdy and like to watch somebody tie flies over and over again all day. These ones take a bit of an oversized fly. I put a 3.5 mil copper bead on these. 3 mil would probably be fine too. Where are my beads? Oh, whoops, this is the 4 mil pocket. I'm tying exclusively on my dripstone beads. I still have a bunch of bags of other brands in there, just sort of leftovers in case I run low or something, but I haven't gotten into them in months and months. I should just take them out and make some more room in these little fold-out drawers I've got for organizing my hooks. Alright, so these are size 14s, 3.5 copper bead. I'm going to use fluorescent orange thread. And then just sort of wait till I get to it to explain the next few materials. I got that bead locked in with a few thread wraps, and then I'm going to use 15 thousandths of an inch lead-free wire just to make a little taper. And I'll probably just do 5 wraps. I go 6. I like to fill about half the straight part of the shank with lead-free wire. And touching wraps to the end. And I already have some floss pre-cut. Might need to cut some more to get through all 6 of these flies, but that's kind of the formula, is 3 strands to build up enough material. Just pinch them together. And 2 loose wraps, and I just pull it to length so I don't have to trim it. Okay, and then for this I use tinsel, just some pearl tinsel. I've been using the Sulky Silver Metallic mainly because I know a lot of people use it because it's more durable, but I find that when I'm making tight wraps with it and then I cut it off, I'm less likely to pigtail it and have it curl up all, which makes it either hard to tie in or you have to cut it off. So I like it mainly because it's a little easier to tie in and use. And it's a good value. I mean, those spools are $6 or $7, but I don't know remember how much is on there. Let's see, it says 225 meters. You know, where a regular spool of tinsel is more like 10 meters. So, I mean, this is basically a lifetime supply. I've had that for a year, and I don't see myself running out anytime soon. Okay, now that's tied in. I'm going to just build up a little taper up to the wire. And then for the body, we're using Green Peacock ice dubbing. Just stuff raw hair. See what the color looks like. And we're just gonna build up a noodle. Just gonna. Is that better? You can see what's going on the vise. I've been showing you guys on the vise cam, and it's not been turned on. Oops. All right, that's probably way too much body. Oh well. I find it easier to make a bigger noodle than I need and then just break it off. I like doing that better than estimating too little and then having to add more later. For some reason, the bit I add later usually isn't wrapped on there nearly as well. But nice touching wraps forward, and just leave yourself just a little bit. Oh yeah, way too much. There's like 1.5 inches. Just pull off the thread and throw it away. And touching wraps forward. And I know Devin Olson, he likes to use tippet to overwrap his tinsel for protection. But I honestly, I don't know. I can't remember the last time I've had the tinsel cut on me. So I've stopped doing it. I mean, not to throw any shade at him. I mean, he's a competitive fly angler, so he needs it to work for him every time. I mean, that's time and money on the river. Trimming this out right at the bend of the hook. So I get why he'd want it to, a little extra insurance. But I don't know. I fish the same flies now. I've had them for quite a while, and I have not broken off catching lots of fish. I haven't broken that tippet. Excuse me, I haven't broken that tinsel yet. So I kind of feel like it's just poorly tied in. You got to make sure it's secured well at both ends, because I think it's not actually getting cut. I think it's just being pulled out. But because I did have that problem a lot when I was learning. So I'm taking a dun feather and trimming it to length, and then I put it in the clip, leaving about half the fibers exposed, and then I cut it off the quill. And then I untwist the thread by when you're looking down on it, you spin it counterclockwise. And just take your bodkin here and just kind of stroke it down. You can sort of see the wraps come out. And it may, since it was sitting so long, I think it was already pretty flat just from gravity, so I'm cording it back up. There you go. And I'm just making a thread-based loop instead of using I don't even know what you call that anymore. Drawing a blank. but redo like a bodkin loop, or not a bodkin loop, but just a regular loop. I find that this builds up less material, and Bob steered me in this direction early in my tying days, and I'm grateful for that. Cord it back up and just stroke it back after each wrap so you don't lay them down. And then this just has a little bit of a thread collar behind, a little hot spot right behind the bead. Easy peasy. I might. I was playing around with having some background music, and I found some music that I think is, you know, okay to stream with. It's not going to give me like a copyright strike, but I was just worried that it'd be a little too distracting. So we'll see how this goes. But some of the things I didn't know, you know, if it. I forgot the wire. Okay. Tie in the. I like to experiment with some different colored floss. I haven't done much with chartreuse, and I know that's a really effective color. A few times I've tied with it a long time ago, and it did really well, but I just never think to do it. I need to slow myself down. I keep getting ahead of myself. Never really considered myself a fast tire, because it's always been more important to me to have consistent flies. Thanks for naming it dubbing loop. I was just drawing a blank. Could not think of what those were called. I was trying to think of the tool that you used to spin them up, that little weight. But I think those are all like a brand name. Like you've preached about. Once you get the hang of like just sort of figuring out when it's flat, and it's really easy to just split them. I don't think it's if anything, it's got to be faster than doing a dubbing loop. So like that one, I was pulling too much tension on it when I cut it, and it curlicued up. I don't know if you can see that or not, but usually when I'm about to cut it, I try to let the pressure up just enough to keep it tight. Otherwise, if you pull on it too hard, it will pigtail up like that. Little tire tip for you. That's more important, especially if you're using like UTC's Mirage or more traditional flat tinsels. I know a bunch of you are waiting on getting some new colored beads in stock. I haven't talked about it yet, but the manufacturer of my beads, they sent me a photo of the light pink beads that were a high request. And like they screwed it up somehow, where the color was all blotchy. I guess the way they make them is they first do a coat of a black nickel for like a base color, and then they plate whatever color on top of that. And it was just super uneven, and I'm like, you know, I can't sell these, so the price I have to pay is waiting longer. They got to redo them. They can't just like put them through the machine and, you know, replate them to get them more evenly. So that was kind of a bummer, but I'm glad they were willing to, you know, do a good job and make sure that they're the highest quality possible. Because, you know, it's, after making the bead video, you know, it's important to me that, you know, that they're good quality, both in, you know, the slot width and the finish on them. Anybody that's listening, I turned on some music. Can you hear it? And if you can, is it too loud? Is it overpowering? I don't know. I may not do music. Music's kind of tough. Like this, I could make a playlist with the stuff I use in my videos. That's probably a little more on brand than what's playing now. It's like right now, it's like electronic house music or something. I just went and did a search for music that was safe to stream. So like basically a lot of gamers who stream their gameplay, put those together. It's funny, I don't know if you guys are listening to podcasts much, but I put on the Orvis podcast on my way to my last fishing trip, and one of the questions in the fly box, they asked Tom if I think he was like basically clarifying what the mono rig can do, and he was making the person emailing him was making the case that you can actually make a fly line style cast with it, and Tom like instantly shut it down. He's like, no, I really don't think you can make a fly line style cast with it. And so clearly he hasn't much experience with the 20-pound mono butt section in his leader. I mean, he made the argument that rods are designed to load up with a fly line that matches, you know, the weight of the rod. So it's like usually measured in grains. So if you have a 300 grain line, then you need a 300 grain rod to be able to load that up properly. And so the idea I think that he had was that, you know, mono is a lot less grains than a fly line, so you're not going to load up your rod. But I think rods are designed to load up a fly line with a weightless fly, namely a dry fly. So when you start adding split shot or tungsten beaded flies or any weighted fly for that matter, you know, you're basically overweighting the rod, at least in my opinion. I know the industry's kind of shifted towards, you know, stiffer, faster rods to sort of compensate for that. But I think if you're fishing weighted flies, that the mono rig loads up pretty well. I mean, obviously you can't do like a big 50-foot cast, but you can certainly do 30 foot, 35, maybe 40 if you have room to back cast. It's definitely possible. I've done it several times recently, so I thought that was interesting. I mean, the stuff Tom knows is pretty staggering. He knows a lot. I mean, he's been fishing his whole life. He's just a wealth of knowledge, but it goes to show that not everyone knows everything. Oh, that reminds me. I was going to check to see if this showed up. Does show up in the Discord? Nope, wait. Yep, there it is. Okay, cool. And then I was also going to tweet it because why not? I know we're like deep into this now. All right, sorry about that, guys. Let's get back to tie-in here. Well, the only technical thing I think I need to figure out for these live streams is how to get the live chat to show up in OBS. I thought it would do it automatically once you made the stream public. But maybe not. Maybe there's something else I gotta do. Well, obviously there's something else I gotta do. Anybody's curious about my setup and what I'm using here. My main cam is got a macro lens on it, and that's what you see on the vise here. And then the second camera here is my old GoPro 8 that I was using for underwater shots. Got that going in for, you know, wide view of me for that little picture-in-picture down there. And I think that works pretty well. I mean, it's nice because, I mean, I need my tying desk to have room for all my tools and materials and stuff. So if I had all this camera stuff in the way, that would be cumbersome. I actually think it'd be really cool if my macro camera was up above. Like if it was up here, right here, looking straight down, I would need like another, you know, light stand and a boom arm and stuff. But that would be super rad to give a unique perspective looking straight down. And then you'd have a white, you know, my base plate would be white. You wouldn't have to worry about the fly getting lost against my shirt. Let's see. Sorry about changing camera angles. I'm just going to take a second here and see if I can figure out how to get the YouTube chat to show up here in OBS, so bear with me 1 second. I think I need to make the stream public from OBS itself and not from the YouTube studio panel. Next time I'll try that and see if that helps. Again, I want to thank everybody who's been watching, just hanging out, just chilling, watching me do my thing. If you have any questions, be sure to ask in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. If you have any questions about monorigs or the rivers around here or what's going on with the channel, anything, let me know. I'm happy to do my best to try to answer any questions. Hey, Tom. Hey, Michael. I basically just answered that about the beads coming. The problem is my manufacturer's in China, and Chinese New Year is January 20th, and they basically take the whole month of January off. And so the bead video came out first thing in January and took off, and so everybody found out about the beads, and they basically sold out. And so I was able to get, you know, another order promptly in, but they didn't start working on it until February. And since they take the whole month off, not only are they, that slows you down, but since everybody else that uses that factory for whatever tungsten products they make, they're just super slammed. So I'm expecting the 3.0 beads, including the fluorescents. Those should be here hopefully by the end of the month. That was the last estimate I was given. I'm also expecting matte olive. The pink would have been here at the end of the month, but they screwed those up, so that reset the clock on those. So that's probably going to be mid-February at best before those come. So appreciate everybody's interest. It's very difficult to keep them in stock. I mean, literally, I had the stock levels I had were, I bought a lot of beads about 6 months ago, and then I dropped that bead video, and then it just explodes, and everybody and their uncle were buying beads, which is awesome, but I was not prepared for that. I was not expecting it to do so well and everyone to be so interested. So again, thank you for everyone who's bought some, and those of you who are waiting for more beads. The 3.0s and new colors, sans pink, will be here at the end of the month, hopefully. I might have to go beat my horse. She's kicking the wall. And that's just a joke. I would not actually hit her or beat her in any way. We have a training whip, which is basically like a long flexible fly rod with a string at the end of it, and you can kind of snap it. And just holding that thing really ticks her off, and so she'll leave you alone. She's not fond of the training whip, which you don't actually whip them with. You just kind of snap it to get them to pay attention to you. It's more of just like it's kind of like a whistle or a click or something. It's an auditory signal. But anyway, yeah, hopefully the beads will be here soon. I was bugging them just last week, and they said the soonest would be the end of February. So stay tuned for that. And if you're subscribed to the newsletter on the shop page at driftstone.co, or I just turned on where you can get notified when stocks return. If you signed up for all that, obviously you'll be notified when I add the inventory to the shop, but I'll send out an email letting everybody know they're back in stock. And just so you know, I know 3.0 is the most popular size, so I bought twice as many of the 3.0s as I did all the other sizes combined. So we should have plenty of 3s for quite some time. And staying on the beads though, basically taking requests for new colors after this. My main focus right now is gonna be to try to keep everything in stock. It's a little tricky with the timing and the factory being backlogged. Bit tricky, getting everything. If they have like some stuff made, like the common colors, they usually have them in stock. Like they just make a lot of, the black nickel, copper, gold, and silver. Those 4 colors are usually, they keep them made, but they didn't this time. But my goal is to keep them in stock, because I know, if you want good beads, it's hard to find them. So I want to be able to supply them for you guys. But somebody was asking about if I had tried this on the Yuba. Are you talking about this fly specifically, or have I ever fished there? Because I have fished the Yuba. It was in the middle of summer 2 summers ago, and it was like a 115-degree day. No clouds, just pure sunshine beating down on the world. And I skunked, and I was with somebody who was very experienced back then. He's fished there numerous times and knows where the fish are, knows how to catch them, how to fish for them. And he didn't get any bites either. So my experience is that, I don't know. The Yuba is a little challenging. I know it gets a lot of pressure because it's very close to Sacramento and the Bay Area. So people want to go fish a trout stream. That's probably one of the closest to those people in those areas. I mean, it's beautiful water. the reservoir it's flowing out of keeps that water nice and cold and clear. And I know there's some big fish in there. I've seen pictures. And when I was there, I don't recall what flies I used, to be totally honest. I doubt I fished this. I think I was trying to fish a lot of small stuff, but I honestly don't remember. Hot orange spot beads, do you mean like the color hot orange? Or is there something like an actual spot on the bead? I'm not familiar with, or not exactly sure what you mean by that. Another color I was thinking about getting was white, because I know a lot of people like to tie up chironomid patterns with white beads. Answer me this, everybody. I tend to prefer slotted beads even when I'm not putting them on jig hooks, because I feel like there's less material hollowed away than like the Cyclops style beads that people use on non-jig hooks. So I feel like they're heavier for the same size bead, and they fit on them just fine. I mean, they may, I don't know, it might be an aesthetics thing, because sorry, I don't need to be making wraps all the way back. Gotta do the wire first. So, do any of you tie slotted beads on normal nymph hooks? Just curious. Or should I work on getting Cyclops style beads too? Another thing I'm working on with the factory is to get tungsten barbell eyes. Still have a lot of details to work out for that. But I know there's been some interest for those, because those are, I mean, they're expensive because there's a lot of tungsten in them. But the industry is kind of ridiculous. I think Hairline, or there's only a few companies that make tungsten barbells or dumbbells, and they're usually like 90 cents, $1 a piece, and that's a lot of money. I mean, let's be honest. So I get why people prefer to use brass or lead, even though it's about half the weight. But I'm working on that. I don't know what I'm pricing yet, but I'm hoping I can do better than most people, most brands. Okay, yeah, Tom. Yeah, hot orange has definitely been a request. Let's see. I know I've got them in offset beads. It's fluorescent orange on those, but I will definitely, that's at the top of the list. Hot orange. I've had several requests for that now. I've also had some requests for different combinations of speckled beads. I mean, I basically got the chartreuse ones because Trout Flies uses it for his Royale line of flies, the Bunny Royale and Birdie Royale. And Firehole was the only company at the time that was making them with actual fluorescent properties. There's some other chartreuse speckled beads out there, but they weren't fluorescent. They were just chartreuse paint. And so I went and had some made just to help you guys out, help those guys out who need them. I mean, they were like really hard to find. And Firehole's going through something. I think what I heard is the owner's wife may have passed away, or somebody close isn't healthy. I don't know all the details. Don't want to spread any rumors, so don't take that for gospel. But there's something going on in their personal lives that's affecting their inventory. So that's why you can't get their 516 hooks, and the 520s are starting to dwindle too. So the ones I have on stock might be what I have for a while. I don't know what their plans are to get more, or when they're going to re-up. But Firehole's been out of their speckled chartreuse beads forever now. I can't even remember the last time they had them in stock. Oh, that sucks about the Yuba there, Scott. I don't remember. I know it's a big river. Is that pretty high flows for there? I want to say 1,000 is what it's like in the summer, but I imagine if they're flowing that much, the reservoir up there must be full. So that's good news, if anything. Maybe we'll have a good spring and summer there on the Yuba. I also don't know where to go there. When I went fishing, we came out behind a gate and we were about to hop over it, and then we stuck our hands on it and realized they coated it with like axle grease to prevent people from climbing over it. And so that was disappointing. We were pulling axle grease off our hands for like a couple hours. Yeah, sky's the limit on colors for beads. I mean, there's, I don't know, I could probably have 100 different colors. There's some other wild things like they have like this weird texture on them that kind of makes them look like a disco ball. It's not faceted like a disco ball, but it's like this crunchy coating on them. I've never seen anybody with that, but you know, I think basically every time that I place a new order, I'm going to get a new color. That's my plan. At least one new color. I don't know all the details. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but my brother Jeremy was telling me that wholesale fly company is going out of business. Like the owner wants to retire and he's done. So he's just closing up shop. It seems like he'd want to sell the company or something, but it might be the case that there aren't going to be a whole lot of value beads out there anymore other than the few brands that are out on Amazon, like Mun or Eventech were the two I was using beforehand. But, you know, I mean, it's a bit of an opportunity for me, but it does suck to see them close up shop if that is in fact the case. I mean, I know that there's a strange following of people that really like their hooks, and I'm guessing it's just price bias. Like they're just such a good price that they kind of overlook some of the flaws. But the few packs I bought from them, all of them had sharp edges on them, and if you're not careful when you're making wraps close by to the bead, you could easily cut your thread off, which sucks. Oh yeah, okay. Wow, they must have really been flushing it out. I know in the Trinity, I was looking at heading over there, and they were bumping the flows up for 4 days, I think. And I think they were just trying to add more water to the system to get the steelhead to move up. So maybe keep an eye on the Yuba and see if the flows come back down. Maybe after they come down, that'll be a really good time to get out there. Maybe some steelhead will move up into there. I can't even remember. Do steelhead have access to the public places on the Yuba? I'm not sure if it does. I think it does. I don't know. Maybe it's like the lower sack too. They don't call them steelhead. Because I mean, technically all the fish and redding on the lower sack are all steelhead, but nobody calls them that. Because I guess they're resident, although I don't know how they know that. I mean, the fish do get big up in Redding. They're not huge though. They're not like, I don't know, the biggest ones I've seen were maybe in the mid-20s. Which is a big fish, don't get me wrong. Super fun to catch. I mean, they fight super hard in there too. They are super hot fish. Some of the hottest I've ever hooked into. But you can definitely find bigger fish on the Klamath or on the Trinity or more of the coastal rivers. Do you expect a video from the Yuba? I don't know. The time I fished there, like I mentioned earlier about the rivers up around Mount Shasta, I hardly ever see anglers. So it's really hard for me to want to travel down to a river when I'm going to have to share it with 5-6 other people. I mean, that's kind of my deal with Puta. I mean, I kind of want to go back a third time and catch fish there. I know I can do it. I just happened to be there on 2 days where the flows were... Well, I broke my rod the first time, and the second time the flows were way high. which made it challenging. But like I don't like having to share the river, especially something like the Yuba. Well, the Yuba is kind of like the Pewter Creek in that there's not a whole lot of access. There's a lot of private property around it. So, but then again, I've only fished there once, so I don't know it that well. There may be more access that I don't know about that's away from the highway bridge. Yeah, I bet you can. That's a big river. I mean, I would like to have a spay rod just because it seems fun, something different. I mean, I really like the mono rig, and I was thinking just this week that I just want to mix things up. I don't want to be like a one-trick pony. I mean, I feel like the mono rig is a very versatile tool, and you can fish a lot of ways very effectively with it. But I don't know. Definitely been spending more time with streamers, but I'd like to, you know, maybe cast a fly line, get more keyed into hatches, and fish dries more. Problem is I'm kind of lazy, and I don't tend to fish later into the afternoon when the best hatches tend to come off around here. So maybe I need to make some changes to my routine. Maybe take more of a break at lunchtime and midday, and then stay later. Because I usually fish pretty hard, and I'm pretty tired by 2, 3 in the afternoon. Well, you don't always catch fewer fish. I mean, especially if you're willing to walk back into some less pressured water. Fishing can be pretty incredible if you're willing to work a little bit for it. All right. Some kind of doing a lot of CDC. I'm gonna switch over and do some Duracells, and I'm gonna tie those in a couple sizes. Just checking my notes. I've taken really meticulous notes for all my recipes, and I don't know, I probably should have the bead sizes all memorized by now, but I just kind of rely on my notes here. These take silver beads. I'm gonna do 6 12s and 6 14s. We've been going here. Does it say how long I've been streaming? I don't know. I'm a noob. Some 12s and 14s. And I tie my Duracells a little bit differently. I think the original pattern called for like dark Porto CDL tails, and I like to use dyed red. And then they use like, it's called chocolate or purple. I don't know what the name of the eye stub that's traditionally used. But I like to use the Starling eye stub from Semperfli. It's kind of more of a blue tint to it, but it's mostly black. And black CDC. I just love that fly. I think I might need to take my coat off. This calls for black thread. Although I once accidentally used red thread, and it doesn't actually matter. I was about to make a point that I didn't actually mean to make, because you actually, for these, you don't double collar up. You make a dubbed collar right behind the CDC to get it to lay down, and so you can't usually see the thread anyway if you do that right. And for this bigger hook, I do like to use a little bit larger, 20,000th of an inch lead-free wire. Build a thread base. Oh, shoot, my wire's wrapped around the bodkin or bobbin. Okay, and then let me find some red CDL. That's kind of what it looks like. This stuff kind of comes on thin, so I like to add a little extra fibers. I'm probably doing more like 12. It's not as, if you're using pheasant tails obviously don't need as many fibers, but the CDL is so fine that this is kind of a big bulky fire. Getting sink rate's not really what you're going for with this one. Thanks for stopping in, Dave. Glad to have you in the chat. See you on the water, man. This calls for red wire. I don't see a piece that I've already cut off, so let's give me one. Oops. Accidentally cut off a heavier piece of wire. I'm just going to throw that away and break off a piece from the right spool here. When I first started fly tying, I was definitely a miser about materials. I didn't want to waste anything, so I was saving every little piece forever, and I would end up not using it. Just cluttering it up. I've kind of found that, I mean, the hooks and the bead do cost a fair amount of money, but the rest of the materials really not so much. So I think it's more important to be efficient rather than a cheapskate. This particular fly calls for black CDC instead of dun. I know the difference is subtle. This feather I was working with, it's more like a gray color versus black. I don't know, the fish probably don't care, but the angler does. Again, I'm just cutting it to length. It's, I don't know, a little more than a half an inch long-ish. And then I grab it in the clamp, cut it off the stem. Oops, I'm not ready for that step yet. Gotta put the dubbing body on. Okay. It always takes me to get a minute to get organized after I switch to a new pattern. I think I just way overdubbed this. I don't know. It's a size 12 hook, so there's a lot of body to wrap on, but may have overdone it. Like I said, the first fly, it always takes a minute to recalibrate how much materials to use. Oh, looks like I did it just about right. This one, I want to leave a little bit of room at the head because, like I said, we were doing a dubbed collar behind the bead, so you need a little less material build up there to have room for that. Otherwise, it gets pretty bulky. Got the wire. Helicopter off. Okay, now we can do the CDC. Oh, I just found the clock where it tells me how long I've been streaming. I'm going over 2 hours. Wow, well, like I said before, I mean, I'm here, I'm going to be on the Vice tie-in, so I might as well just hang out with you guys. It's called, this dubbing is called Starling. If you look at it, it's kind of, let me take it out of the light here. It mostly looks black, but it's more like blue and purple tones. It's a really cool pattern or color of dubbing. I love it a lot. I don't think Hairline with their iStub brand makes anything quite like it. It's pretty unique. And boom, there's a finished fly. And I personally like to do a single 6-turn whip finish instead of 2 3s. Just feel like it's just as effective and it's faster. Which, if you're just tying for yourself, speed probably isn't that big a deal. You know, I mentioned speed, and I'm really not a fast tyer. I was listening to the podcast, the Orvis podcast, where they interviewed the manager at the Fulling Mill factory in Kenya, and they were talking about some patterns, like a classic pheasant tail being a 2 to 3 minute pattern. And I haven't clocked myself in a long time, but even like a really basic one, 3 minutes, that's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. I mean, you got to be really focused. If I was really focused on speed, I'd probably want to tie, not switch every 6 flies, but I mean, to go that fast and for them all to be the same, that takes some skill, that's for sure. As the shop keeps growing, I've thought about, hiring tyers. I'd like them to be based in the States. I mean, I understand the margins will be a lot lower than if I were to go overseas, but I just, I want the quality to be top notch. It's not like, I don't know, it's like Walmart doesn't care so much about the quality of the stuff they sell. I mean, they do, but I don't know. When it's a small company, your reputation's more staked in what you're selling, so. I don't want to sell crappy flies. You can get those anywhere. Where'd my wire go? There it is. I don't know if you heard that big popping can sound. The sun came out, and I think the shop's heating up. And so sometimes the metal sidings, they just sort of pop in and out. Sounds like somebody threw a rock at the side of the building. Grateful though today it's not windy. The square side of the shop faces the predominant direction of the wind, and so sometimes it gets pretty windy here. It's pretty common that it's like 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts on the windy days, and I swear it just, the whole shop rattles and shakes, and it makes me feel like I want to duck under my desk when it really I'm pretty sure it would be too noisy to do a live stream. It's just so noisy. And I had to sort of start using, noise canceling headphones on those days, because it's just, I couldn't focus. It was just giving me anxiety thinking about the roof ripping off or something. It's quite violent. I don't know how people who live in hurricane countries or parts of the country deal with it, or tornadoes. That seems so scary. I mean, like a hurricane can have like sustained winds over 100 miles an hour for hours upon hours. That's intense. Like I said before, if any of you have any questions, please let me know about the channel, fishing in general, fly tying questions, whatever. I can do my best to answer them. I'm no Daddy Rosenbauer, but I learned a few things. I know a few things. I know after all those storms we had, the rivers were blown for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight. Not a lot of fishing was done during that. Everything's sort of settled back into a rhythm. And we'll be into runoff here before we know it. I wonder how bad it's going to be on places like the Truckee. The snowpack in the Sierra is just super, super high right now. What's going on? My horse is trying to break my window. I'm going to go shoo her off real quick. Right, we're back. Has anybody heard any word on from Whiting, what their deal is with their supplies? They have not had any like new pelts to buy forever, it seems. I'm wondering if it's affected by the bird flu outbreak that affected the eggs there for a minute. Thanks, Moscow Man. I will definitely give Jeff a call and write that name down. Because, to be honest, it's hard to do your research. I mean, a lot of what I was able to find in the areas I was going were more targeted towards, bait and traditional, conventional anglers. Jeff DeBrown, real ball. Yeah, I'm not actually going to Baja. I'll be on the Sea of Cortez on the mainland side, but I mean, the fish are everywhere for the most part. I know a lot of people target roosters down, around La Paz and La Ventana, I think it's what it's called, just inside the around the Cortez side of Baja Peninsula. And obviously a lot of people like to get on boats to target offshore fish. But I'm primarily going to be doing some shore fishing, seeing what I can target along the edges. I've watched tons of videos from both Mexico and other places, salt fishing, Florida, whatever. It just looks like a lot of fish like to sort of cruise along the beach where the surf sort of kicks up food, and they'll look for bait fish and whatever. So, we'll see. Like I said, I've got some materials to tie a bunch of salt fly patterns. I've got a bunch of bucktail coming. I've got some new colors of predator fibers coming, which is similar to EP fibers. Yeah, gonna tie some shrimp, some bait fish stuff, EP bait fish, clousers, deceivers maybe. Trying to think of everything. I was gonna do a crab pattern, but I decided I was trying to keep my shopping trip to a reasonable amount of money, and so I didn't get the stuff to make any crab patterns. I may regret that, or maybe I'll pick up some flies down there if I can find an actual fly shop where I'll be. But like I said, I'm super pumped about that. Where did my feather go? Here's my feather. But I wouldn't mind going out on a boat for half a day. Try to get into some bigger fish. Or target more species or whatever, just for the experience of being out there. I mean, I'm going down there. We're also going to bird, so that's kind of why we're not going down Baja. It's not specifically a fishing trip. I'm gonna have plenty of time to fish, but my wife's an avid birder. So we're heading down to find some of the species that are more common down in Mexico that don't come up here. So probably about 2/3 of the time we'll spend birding and 1/3 fishing. We're gonna spend a whole week down there, so should be a good time. It's gonna be a little shocking going from cold weather down to 90-degree weather and 80-degree water. Never been anywhere tropical before. But again, thank you, Mosca Man. I appreciate that kind of advice. Bob, the owner at Colton Fly, he's the one that gave me most of the advice. He used to live down in La Paz. Super cool guy. Definitely check him out. I mean, his website's kind of old school. Hasn't been updated in a few months, or a few years. It's like one of the first e-commerce sites back in the early days. But his reels are really cool. Really a work of art, and they're made in the U.S. Highly recommend. You need a big reel that has a great drag. It's good stuff. The rod, I mean, the fit and finish is excellent. I haven't had a fish on the end of it. I've just done a few casts, and feels pretty good to me. And then compared to, I don't know if you've ever shopped for salt reels, but they are not cheap. To get one with a good drag, you're guaranteed to spend $600 to $800, and you can go up from there. So, because I guess it's really common for those bigger fish to get you into a backing, and you need a good drag to tire them out. You're using the drag rather than the rod. From what I understand, I'm obviously not an expert on this. It's a really great video Trident Fly Fishing made. I forgot the name of the guy that they went and hired down in Baja, but it was super cool. Apparently the guy they hired, he's known for sort of pioneering, targeting rooster fish from the beach. So he's a really cool guy. Just wants to, live the beach life down in Mexico and chase roosters all day long. And really good little documentary. Gives you some of the basics and what it's like, because I mean, you're hunting for them. You see them chasing some bait fish, and you got to run down the beach to get ahead of them, because you want to cast ahead of them, because they won't turn necessarily to follow your streamer. Most bait fish that they pursue are going to be running away from them, not parallel to them. So that makes sense. Needing to get ahead of them, and you don't want to cast on them, but in front of them. Trigger the chase. This tail's a little long. Might need to take a break here soon. I think my vision's getting a little sloppy. My eyes get tired looking through the readers for a long time. Like I said, I can tie without them, but I feel like I'm a lot cleaner. And I can see I'm using 3X's, I believe. Let's see if they're written on the side. 2.5s. And that's about enough magnification for me to, see what I'm doing clearly and not strain my eyes too much. It does take some getting used to. But I'm a fan. I've tried, like a big magnifying glass that you would swing in front, but I find that to be way too cumbersome. It's hard to find the fly, like just to get your hands or get your tools on the fly. It takes a second to find it, because you can't see your hands. Like, my field of view wearing glasses is a lot wider, where using a magnifying glass it's very narrow, so you have to sort of get in there and to find it. I'm coming from a photography, video background before I got into fly fishing, or before I came up with Driftstone and started making content for it. You know, having good optics has always been important to me, have a nice, sharp, clear picture of what I'm looking at. And my magnifying glass, I got a little more expensive one than what was typically on the market, and I still didn't feel like the image I was getting was super clean. It had a lot of just like color fringing around the edges of things, and I don't know, I returned it. I think I'm going to finish up. Excuse me, whoa, that was disgusting. I think I'm going to finish up these Duracells and wrap it up. I still have a little ways to go to get through them all, but I think after I'm done with these, we'll call it a day. Still have time. If you have any questions, let me know. Do my best to answer anything fishing related, tying, some advice on rivers, whatever. Camera questions. Just talk about long-term goals with Driftstone. I definitely want to include more products, more variety of products. It's always a personal frustration for me when I start filling up my cart with stuff from, you know, shop A, and then I find near the end there's something they don't have, or it's out of stock, or they don't have a lot of colors. So I definitely want to grow what's available in the shop, so it can be like a one-stop. You know, you want some of my beads, cool, but then you might also want some thread or whatever, some kind of hair's dubbing, some deer hair, even a whiting pelt. That'd be sick to have that. But I'm cash flowing all this, so I'm not going into debt. You know, as sales grow, so will the inventory. So basically doing it slowly and responsibly. And the other little catch with this is, since it's online only, a bunch of the manufacturers, mainly Wapsi and Hairline, won't do business with me. They require that you have a physical brick and mortar fly shop in order to resell their products. So that's kind of why I've started with Firehole and Semperfly and now my own beads. They were more than happy to work with me. So I know Nature's Spirit will. I think they're next on my radar. They've got a lot of good natural fibers, a bunch of natural animal stuff like deer hair, squirrel zonkers, rabbit zonkers, the hare's masks, you know, marabou, stuff like that. And I would love to have that. And I'll probably be next, and I'd like to find someone who has a good hackle. I'm not sure what the deal is with whiting. A lot of the shops are just out of it. I'm worried that they're having a problem with their population of chickens. Maybe something happened. But I might need to go to somebody else if I want to resell some pelts. We'll see. That's down the road a ways. A lot of what's required of these, when you pick up a new vendor like them, they require a large first order. So I need to be prepared and wisely order something. It's always a fine line of ordering enough to have it on hand, but not so much it's just sitting on your shelf and not earning any money. So it's a learning process. It's hard to predict what's going to sell, what's not, but everything has been selling really well, and it's been amazing. Just this week, I added a whole bunch of Semperfly products that I was sold out of. like the Pertagon body stuff just went like crazy. I had been sitting on that for months, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if people just don't know about it, or I'm one of the few people that carry it. They have a whole bunch of colors. It's basically tinsel on a spool, and makes really cool Pertagon bodies. Definitely should check that out if you're not familiar with their Pertagon body materials. But got that all stocked back up. Got a bunch of those on hand. I feel like my fire went out. Let me go check on it. Alright, I'm back. Now to the 7 of you just hanging out with me right now, I really appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, please like the stream. That helps out a ton. I'm going to look for fun and interesting ways to do these. I said early on in the stream I might consider it. Still on the fence, but doing live streams of the edits. I just upgraded my PC from my edit machine, and I have yet to be able to edit a video on the new hardware yet because I haven't been able to catch any fish since I have upgraded. And I'm excited to edit with it. It's got a new processor. Oh my gosh, my horse is about to break my window. Man, oh man, that's annoying. She's so pushy. Anyway, I'm back. Sorry about that. Like I said, this is a real casual live stream. If you're bored, hang out, if you're bored, just want to hang out, that's cool. Chat with others. They're just hanging out with you. Cool too. Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of some more stories I can tell. Having moved, I'm really close to Mount Shasta now, and for the most part, other than Upper Sac, that's closer. Everything else is about the same distance away from me, so I've kind of, in that regard, it's kind of been a lateral move. But there's a lot of stuff to the north, more in Oregon, that I want to explore more this spring. But their licensing is really confusing, especially around steelhead. And there's all these different, there's like a steelhead tag and then an additional, I don't even remember what they're called anymore. I had to call somebody, the Oregon Department of Fish and Game, and even they had to ask because they weren't sure. So I'm like, well, at least I'm not the only one. But anyway, I'm hoping to explore more up there. I think some of the upper sections of the Klamath, maybe around Copto or Keno. I'm not really sure what's actually wadeable. A lot of these, there's a lot of private property around them in Oregon, and so they're best to float. And they're pretty big, especially rivers like the Rogue. That's a big river. Pretty hard to bank fish, a river that's like 2,000 plus CFS. But the Deschutes is up there. I mean, Umpqua's up there for steelhead. There's all kinds of Williamson, the Sprague, Fall River, lots of good stuff. So I'm excited to head up there, fish some new stuff. Weather's getting worse. Snow's about to fall again. Wind's coming up. And it's a north wind, so it's really cold wind. I don't think today the high was much over 36. It's pretty cold. Originally from the valley, around Redding, and it's really hot there. For those that don't live in the area, they don't realize, they think of like Death Valley or Arizona gets really hot, but the Redding area also gets really hot in the summer. It's pretty common that there's several days in the high 1-teens, but usually once it hits like 100, it's like 100 all summer is the high. And you just kind of get used to doing everything early in the morning, and you're pretty much indoors after 9 a.m. Because the thing that's weird about hot places like that, it was a shock when I moved there from the beach in Southern California, was it does not stop getting hot until it sets, the sun sets. Like, that was the biggest thing I wasn't used to. Like, normally it would like peak at noon, 11ish down on the coast, and then it would flatten out. But in those hotter climates, it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and the hottest time of the day is like 4 to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and then it stays like over 100 until well after midnight. So it's a painful experience if you're not used to it and don't have good AC. I'd like to do a lot of long distance trail running, and I know several people that run exclusively at night to avoid the heat. They only run under a headlamp, which is intense, if you ever get a guide or you ever fish the lower second Redding in the summertime, which is a great time to fish it because the water comes out of the bottom of the lake and stays cold, even when it's, you know, literally it can be 115. I've seen it as high as like 119, I think is the hottest I've seen. You know, that's, fish with a hat, lots of sunscreen, cover everything you can, like have a sun hoodie. You do not want to have much skin exposed. Shoot, jack that up. Need to cut a new feather up. Yeah, made that one a little more bushy than normal. It's alright. I think it looks good. I think a lot of tires would say that's over hackled, but I don't know. I don't care about using split shot, so I prefer the extra action in my flies and just use split shot. And I use non-toxic tin split shot. I've grown to really like the loon drops. They're kind of expensive, but they're the only ones I've found that you can easily take back off fairly reliably without destroying them. So they last longer, which is cool. Alright, now we're down to the size 14s. Those of you maybe just joining, tying up some Duracells, size 14. I got a half dozen left to go. And using some black thread. This is a 3mm. I know they're hard to get. 3mm silver tungsten bead. I'm going to use 15 thousandths lead-free wire here. Build up a little taper. I think it's more just about the shape for me than the extra weight. I mean, this lead-free wire is not very heavy compared to actual lead, which is fine. I don't want to be handling lead. It's not good for you. But it's more about building up the right shape. This was a good proof of concept. You, the 5 of you, are just holding on. Appreciate you. I was worried that my laptop being connected via Wi-Fi wouldn't have a strong enough signal. to have a stable connection. But that seems to be good. I don't. Looking at the stream health, and it's been like 10/10 the whole time, so which is awesome. I've tested this in the past, and it's never been this reliable. My fingers are drying out. I can't roll my dubbing noodle quite as quickly. Pours cleanly, apparently. Got some stray fibers I'm going to need to pull out. Using a black CDC feather for a hackle. A black one. Actually, this one is not black. It's a done one from earlier. Let's see. Black thread, it's really easy to see when it's flattened out for splitting it. The fluorescent orange is a little harder to see. So if you're still learning how to do split thread loops, I'd recommend practicing on a black or a dark color. Makes it a lot easier to see when the thread's flat, and it's easier to split. You can see when your bodkin's going through it. It's halfway down it. Do you guys have any requests for rivers that I need to go fish, make a video on? It's kind of stormy today and tomorrow, but I'm kind of hoping to get out tomorrow and fish. I actually don't know if that's actually going to be possible. It's supposed to snow 2 inches here. I bet it's at my house. It's probably going to be a bit more snow up in the mountains, or at least the roads that lead into them. So I don't know what to do, where to go. part of the challenge with going somewhere new. It's both fun, but it's riskier. I need to go somewhere I can confidently catch fish in, which like I said with the upper sack, I thought I had that thing dialed. Can't believe I skunked on it. I fished some really nice water. I fished slow, deep water, shallow, slow water. I fished streamers, did riffles, I did fast water. Tried everything I know how to do. I tried big flies, little flies, imitative, attractors. Tried all the things in all the places. I fished hard all day and just could not move anybody, which is frustrating. I mean, I do like being out on the water. A lot of people like to say when they skunk that, oh, it's just nice being out on the water. And that's true. I'm not going to take that from them or even myself, but I go fishing to catch fish. Let's be honest here. And if they beat me, I mean, that happens. They do beat me once in a while. That's definitely part of the game, but I feel like they've won more than they should be lately. And the last time I fished the upper sack with Jared, it was slow, but we found some fish. I mean, we worked hard and we found them. It wasn't impossible. So I don't know if it's just a case of we were in the right place where the fish are, or some unknown thing about the conditions that I missed. I couldn't see when I skunked, but all these questions we ask ourselves when we didn't do well. It could be a challenge. Need some lotion on my hands. Well, we've got, after this one, I've got 4 more Duracells to tie, and then I'll be done for the day. Again, I want to thank those of you who are still hanging out. Appreciate you. You're awesome. All right, everybody. I think I'm just going to wrap it here. All right. So again, thanks everybody for watching. Let's put it on this camera. Thanks everybody so much for watching. It's been fun hanging out with you guys, answering a few questions. Let me know in the comments if I should do this again. I probably will. I don't care what you say. I'm going to watch. I'm going to do more of these because they're fun. I'm here tying. Might as well hang out, answer any questions. And going forward, let me know if you have any requests for ideas for things that you'd like to see me live stream. I know there are a few places that I can probably fish where I have good enough cell signal around here. I need to test it though. It's tough. You need a pretty good signal to live stream on the river, but I'd like to do more of those. But I'm gonna definitely do more fly tying because I'm on the vise a lot. And when I get a video to record, I may stream it for you guys, and you can watch a little behind the scenes editing. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and this is another Eric Leslie adventure here at the desk. See you guys. Godspeed.